There are moments that we want others to serve us, but we are not willing to serve them in equal measure. And I woke up the following morning, I was still healthy and alive. It may look like a simple thing. It means a lot to that man. Yes, the money is on the table. Pick it and go do whatever you want. So the thing here is trying to dig deeper. That's where we need to get ourselves going. My name is Reverend Philip Kitoto, Senior Pastor here at International Christian Center. I welcome you to this week's episode of the Marriage Connection. The other part of offering support is to stop competing. I think when we stop competing, we are able to find opportunities how we can support each other better. You know, marriage is not about who did better. One spouse can earn more than another, and you can compete on who supported the family more last month, or who supports the family financially more. You know, I'm the one who brings in just so much more. Why don't you ever change your job? Oh, why don't you ever do this? I keep doing this and you don't do much. So with time, you begin to bring a friction of competition. How about looking at it this way? You know what, for now, this is what you can bring, this is what I can bring. And then you begin to look at, we need a bit more. What do you think we need to do? Do we need to change our jobs? You see, I have moved from you need to change your job to do we need to change our jobs? What do we do a business? I've just been thinking that we are so squeezed with money. Our daughter is about to go to school. What do we need to do? So you move away from pointing a finger to being a part of the solution and a part of the problem. Many times I ask my wife, how can I help you today? Just as simple as that. How can I help you today? And that by itself is enough question to kind of enable my wife to express herself in the areas that she may need support. But this is a trick. Never ask that question to a woman if you are not ready to listen and carry through the areas that she will tell you. Because she will come up with a list of the support that she needs. All right? So the issue here is, yes, ask that. Ask, what help can I give you today? And then talk through it by going back to expectations. But honey, you know that today I needed to be going for that meeting and this meeting and the other one. So it looks like I may not be able to be there for you when you are doing this other one because of this, but I can be there for this other one. Okay, I didn't know that you were going for a meeting. That is sorted. Are you getting what I mean? Instead of just assuming that, you know what, you can get all the help you need. Some of the things we do with my wife is I can send an SMS, I'm passing by Uchumi or someplace, and I can send an SMS and say, I'm in Nairobi West, or I'm by Nakumat, is there anything you need? Simple things like those. They just release her. She, at that time, maybe she's about to cook and she's just thinking, oh no, I don't have this. And at that time, you could have just saved the day. You know, the moment you walk in with it, says, Lord, what could I ever ask for? And all you did is, what can I do for you? I'm passing by Uchumi. Simple. Simple. Or you could pass by Uchumi and get into the house, and the moment you enter the house, it starts raining. And then she tells you, we don't have milk. So which is easier? Living in the rain to go look for milk, or sending an SMS if she needs something because you're passing by a supermarket? And I discovered, you know what? Sending an SMS is easier because I don't have to get home, and when I've just removed my shoes and I'm just wanting to have my cup of tea, and she's asking me to go to the kiosk to get those things. The other part of it is choosing to build each other. Choosing to build each other, not to tear each other apart. I think most of the time, most couples look into areas where they can make you feel, which word is that? They make you feel small. You remain under their claws, under their control. So they don't build you, they look for things to keep pulling at. So that's why most couples don't share their weaknesses very openly. They don't disclose their areas of weakness because they think you will take advantage of me. But the issue here should be, when I share my weaknesses, I am able to find support. I'm able to be encouraged. I'm able to find a mate that is my companion, my helpmate. The other part of focusing on self is to learn to value who you are rather than defining yourselves through your looks and status or performance. Learn to value who you are rather than defining yourself through looks, status, or performance. It is sad that we want to define ourselves by what we drive, what we eat, where we stay, and that defines us. So when you lose those things, what happens? You go back to zero, isn't it? You feel so less of a man, less of a woman. You feel like what defines you is no longer there. Did you know that for some of us, if you were to live where you stay, to go and stay in a much lower estate, I'm using those words carefully, you will feel like, even before your peers, it's a failure. True? But is that so? Can you actually, let's assume, David, you stay in Madaraka. Suppose you went and stayed in Jericho. There's nothing wrong. It's still a house, still made of mortar. There is running water. Yes, maybe some parts of Jericho may be a little insecure than Madaraka, but are there people who are there and they are still successful? Let's assume that the house you stay in is somewhere in Phenom because of your job, and you are able to afford 60,000 to pay for your house. But something happens and you discuss and you say, you know what? We need to save some money. So let's move to Umoja, or let's move to Satellite, a part of Satellite that is, you're going to pay half of what you're paying, or some part of Jamhuri, you're going to pay half of what you're paying now and get still enough space for yourselves. How would you face your friends talking about that? I moved from Phenom to You know what, guys? You may not say here, but that is a big thing for you yuppies, you guys who are coming up, you guys who are just getting those jobs and feeling, yeah. Because climbing the ladder is also climbing the estate. Right? Isn't that true? You know, your dressing code changes, your kind of car changes. Can you change from a VW Beetle, driving a Toyota a Premier and go and drive a VW, the old one? The one that, the old one. You know, if people saw you driving that going to work, they would ask you, the first thing would, what happened? Is that what defines us? What defines your marriage? In fact, that should be a takeaway question. What defines your marriage? Is it what defines you as an individual? What do you spend on as a couple? What takes most of your money? Do you know it could even be just where you go for the... Ladies, excuse my manners. Right? I mean, I like your... Are they rastas? Braids. I like your braids. But you know what? I can do those. You can do those braids in Kenyatta Market. You can also do them at Ashley's. True? You can also do them at, which is the higher one than Ashley's? Ashley's is actually the top one, isn't it? Yeah, Farouk's. You could do them in those places, isn't it? But aren't they the same braids? In fact, Kenyatta may do a better job. Are you getting what I mean? But what determines where we go? Do you know, what do you call these things? Manicure. Why not? Pedicure is the feet. Manicure. Why not? You will discover that doing this, you can actually go to a place where you will spend how much? Like 2,000? Is that too little? That's kidogo, eh? 3,000? 4,000? Right? But you can go to another place where 500 can do. And it's equally as good, isn't it? So what determines where we go? Class, isn't it? And this is all about focusing on self. You know, we are learning to value ourselves by what we have other than who we are.
Welcome to VTV. Welcome to Vision Television, where truth counts.
Two basic questions about life are this: who am I? And what am I here for? Who am I and why am I in this marriage? You see, it's important. When you answer who you are, then your being part of that relationship and that marriage becomes a very key thing, because then you won't over budget yourself. You won't live beyond your means. The other thing is that not ignoring your needs at the expense of your partner, not relying on getting others' approval. You see, sometimes we get to the place where we rely so much on the approval of others of us. They must tell us we look good. We dress, when you dress in the morning, okay? When you dress in the morning, who comes to your mind? Is it your partner or is it somebody else at the office? Okay? Who do you dress for? When you go to do your hair and you choose to do braids or whatever, colored, whichever hair who do you dress for? And I discovered many times, 80 out of 100%, 80% of the time we dress for other people other than our spouse. The third thing I would like to look at is verbalizing your partner's greatness. Verbalize your partner's greatness. A great marriage, according to Dave Muir, is that a great marriage is not when a perfect couple comes together. It is when imperfect couple learns to enjoy their differences. Did you get that? A great marriage is where two people who know they are so imperfect begin to enjoy how different they are. Because that is what the Bible says. The two now become one. Their differences merge and they become strengths that support the relationship. A marriage isn't something that just happens. It is something that must be created. So with time, we begin to create what this marriage is going to be. The moment we figure out how different we are and we can't change each other, we will start to celebrate ourselves as we are. So for example, myself, I know I forget a lot. Now, I'm not saying that I celebrate the fact that I forget. Oh man, I forget so much, Everybody on staff knows that I forget quite a bit, and I tell them. But they celebrate me because now they know how to help me because I am prone to forget. So David will call me and tell me in the morning, Pasi, do you know you have a meeting this morning? Do you know you have a meeting tomorrow with the leaders? And then I said, thank you, David. Can you send me an SMS tomorrow morning to remind me again? Are you getting this thing? So why do we sometimes instead prowl on each other's weaknesses? You see, our differences are not supposed to tear us apart. Our differences are supposed to be harmonized so that they become part of what makes the marriage exciting and unique. So the question here is, what potentials, what strengths do you see in your partner? How frequent do you talk about your partner's strengths and weaknesses so that they may be turned to become the greatness that your marriage should be? And maybe even more importantly, what kind of potential would you then want your marriage to have as a result of the differences that you have? Do you know you can fight about you are a spender and you are a miser or a saver? other than celebrating the two. We can fight about the fact that you don't enjoy doing the bed, and the other one enjoys doing the sitting room. You can fight about such things than celebrating them. So, my wife and I have come to one agreement. Let us choose which fights we need to fight. Are you getting me? So we don't fight the fights of, I discovered the socks in the walkway again. After 30 years to fight about socks in the walkway? Nah, that's not worth fighting about. Oh, I found a cup in the it was not washed. Oh, I found the bathroom. Somebody went there and they didn't flush. And we used somebody. And you're just the two of you in the house. And somebody did not flush it. Come on. What does it? It just takes a little what? Chwack, and the thing goes. Why God reminds us? And then even some of you, once you've done it, what do? I found this, it's always, and now you use bad words, it's always being left and, not flushed. Is it always? Or has it been maybe twice? Twice, and you've been married 20 years, and you're saying it's always? Honestly, let's be honest with each other, isn't it? We need to be a bit more wiser than that. The fourth one, I'm kind of just around the same issues, so you may find that it may look like repetition, but there is something I'm going for. The fourth thing is value differences. Value differences. Differences can add richness, depth, texture to a relationship. If you embrace them, your differences can be your biggest asset as a couple. If you learn how to use them, they will add instead of subtract from what your relationship needs to be. Did you realize that when you cook a meal, you can spice it? But, excuse me, how many of you have tried to eat a spice by itself? Some of you like meat biryani, isn't it? It tastes very nice with rice. But how about eating that spice by itself? It is not tasty. It can actually cause you irritation. So you'll discover that differences by themselves, they can cause you irritation, but when blended in the relationship, they cause richness. Are you getting what I mean? So, just because I forget, it helps my wife to be on her toes to remind me. And she finds it pure joy to remind me. Because my wife is not good at making the bed, I make the bed gladly, and she comes in and voila, the bed is looking so nice. And because I don't know how to make juice and mix those things up and come up with something, she goes there and she comes up with a rich juice, and we can have that for dinner. And we discover that we are fighting less because each one of us is going for our strengths, and with time we are becoming better at doing things together. We are becoming more of a team than two people who keep fighting each other. So what do? One is to identify the differences. Identify the differences. How do we approach the world? How do we gather information? How do we make decisions? How do we approach issues and structure them? You know, the way an issue can be there, but how do you structure it? How do you deal with it? So when you know how your partner handles particular issues, then those differences are actually easier to talk about because it's easier to acknowledge them and deal with them. Also in valuing differences, it's important to acknowledge that those differences exist and that they are capable of causing harm if they are not blended in the relationship. So the question to ask is, what causes greatest stress when those differences are there? What adds value? Because some differences can add value, isn't it? For example, somebody may be different than you, but they are very, very aggressive. You are very mellow, but they are very aggressive. That aggressiveness may not be what you like, but it adds value. So you ask yourself, how do we use it in the relationship? And so I've discovered with my years in marriage that we need to more than ever leverage on the differences that we have in the relationship. Instead, we find ourselves resenting the differences. And when we resent differences, we cause animosity, because when you don't like me the way I am, then you don't like me as a person. I feel like I'm not appreciated in the way I am. The fifth thing I would like to share that will help us bring out greatness in our relationship is to be other people-centered. We need to focus on others more than we focus on ourselves. In Philippians chapter 2 and verse 2 and 3 and 4, it talks about us being other people-centered in the way we think, we do things, and we relate. Value others much more than yourself. Now, I really don't know how in a relationship a husband or a wife can value the other person better than themselves. But it begins by finding out what things can you do to make those other persons feel more accommodated. The Bible says that do nothing from rivalry or competition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each one of you not look to his own interests, but the interests of others. The problem we have is that we live in a self-centered world. There are some nights I would rather my wife was sexually fulfilled than I was.
A red flag in a relationship. If I'm married, is it not for me to mind about what my husband thinks? I mean, why am I dressing and thinking about what someone else is going to say and how I'm going to present myself to them?
She came with the 4 outfits and she asked me, which one would you like me to put on? You have been watching The Marriage Connection here at the International Christian Center. We welcome you to join us again for the next episode. God bless you.